let me just have a quick recap of what we have done and discussed. So basically, we went for a BW system. Now in BW, BW version BW we have. So first and foremost, the most important thing that we should know is SAP. Quick recap of it. Started in 1972, and they went into ERP technologies. Means they introduced ERP software, not BW software. They launched ERP softwares, and then once they have done it, then they went for BW software. Now in BW software, it's like they got into the data warehousing concept. Data warehousing concept, and in data warehousing concept, we discussed about what exactly is data warehousing. We discussed about this, and we discussed about BIW. This was the first version which SAP had introduced, and then we just had this BW, and then we have BI again, and then now BW 7.4. After that, we call that as BW on HANA. And then after that we have something called BW4HANA. So what we have right now is BW4HANA in all the technologies. Now there is a huge demand in the market for BW4HANA consultants. Why is it so? Is because all these organizations which are using the past versions will no more be valid after 2022. So sooner or later, everyone has to upgrade or move their version to BW4HANA because they are not going to support the old versions. So if at all, if they already have the old versions, they have to move it to BW4HANA. That's the reason there's a huge demand right now for BW4HANA. So even if you see the projects coming up are all on BW4HANA migration. What do we mean by migration? Is we have to get all this whatever system is running in the backend has to be actually moved to BW4HANA. So now, in general, what exactly happened is there are a lot of transformations which happen in the backend, and that actually reflects on the front end as well. Like in the front end, we have a lot of technologies which have been modified. So the GUI navigation and all also will be different in BW4HANA. Now we were discussing about the info objects and all, right? So they are also a bit modified here. So we are going to discuss first about the these are completely outdated, kind of like these are like older than the ambassador area, ambassador generation. So they are completely outdated now. BI happens to be launched in 2004, but even then that is also too old. BW 7.4. Now we have BW on HANA and BW4HANA. BW on HANA is also called as BW 7.5. So everyone is supposed to move into BW4HANA. In fact, like there are some clients who already upgrade to BW on HANA. They have time, but the old versions will not work in the latest environment. So they have to upgrade, and everyone is upgrading. That's the reason there's a huge demand for the consultants who know BW for HANA well. Moving ahead, there are some lot of technical changes that happen. So all these softwares that we were using in the past, all these softwares which we are using in the past, were all database independent. This is an extremely important concept that we have to keep in our mind. That database independent in the sense they could have gone for any database. Means they could have gone for Oracle. They could have gone for uh, the SQL. They could have gone for any other databases. But here, when we get into this, SAP, SAP BW on HANA, it is mandatory for us to go ahead with BW HANA database. So BW for HANA by default will have only one choice here, HANA database. They cannot go for any other database. Here in all these days they were focused on software business. Now they have come into the database and hardware business as well. That's the reason now we have this. Now whatever we are doing, the cube which we are doing right now in the first project, that will not be there in the BW and HANA. We have something called advanced DSO. In that way, we have a very different approach for BW and HANA. We have a very different approach for BW and HANA and BW for HANA. And why they have done those things, we'll just slowly understand. But we need to understand that before, most of you will be working on migration projects or support projects. So if you are working on support projects, chances are that you might be working on any of the old softwares. It's not that SAP has stopped its maintenance. That does not mean that they have to stop using the software. Yes, they can still use the software, but what SAP says is you will not be supported. If you have any issue, we are not going to fix that bug, something like that. So for example, if you have purchased a car, if you go to a garage, or if you go to the service center of that particular car, like for example, if you have Honda City, so Honda clearly mentions that we are going to give the service to your car just for next 10 years. After that, we're not going to give you service. You have to scrap it, something like that. That does not happen in India as of now, but this is similar to that, that you have to do it. Otherwise, if you want to maintain that, you can go to a local garage and manage it, right? So similarly, you can also fix that issues on your own, and you can work on. But if there are any bugs that comes across, they're not going to access it. So all the organizations will definitely try to move from all these different platforms to BW for HANA. Now, the question here is, even though it was launched in 2014, why 2014 SAP was consistently telling to all the clients that you have to move on to the HANA database. But why they didn't insist is because they wanted to stabilize it more. Okay, now in HANA database also we have HANA 2. HANA 1.0. That's a basic one, basic database, and then we have HANA 2.0. So HANA 2.0 database is what we are using right now. So, there are a lot of changes that happened from HANA 1.0 to 2.0 as well. So, they have fixed all the bugs that they had normally faced upon, and then this is working fine now. So, and because of that reason, every client will be going ahead. So now, moving ahead, the primary concepts of data warehousing are still there in the same way for all the versions. There are certain things which are common for all the softwares, like compression of data, and use it for analysis, and report it for in some other software. So these are all things, whatever we have, they're all common for all the data warehousing technologies. But addition to that, there are some new features which are been added in the BW4. And later you'll get to know very clearly that why we are starting from BW 7.4. Okay, so in short, I can tell you in one statement that because you will be working on migration projects or support projects or implementation, but if it's a pure greenfield implementation project, you will be working only on BW for HANA. But if it's a migration project, you should be knowing what is actually the fundamental concept of BW, BWI, BW for HANA. Because if we directly come to the BW for HANA, you will not know what is a cube if you don't touch BW 7.4, because there's no cube concept in BW4. Now, then will be directly working on advanced DSO, which will be slightly confusing when we have to migrate it from BW 7.4 to BW4. I think you understood it better now, and we are going to do a couple of projects in this. First project which we are going to do is from .csv file to PSA to, and then we have .csv file to PSA to DSO. So now we are understanding about the cube concept, and all. Later we'll understand about the DSO concept as well. .csv file SA DSO to cube. We are going to do say in .csv file. Basically, this is for master data, master PSA. We can skip the PSA also for the master data, but PSA to master data text or attributes. First, we'll go for text, simple one. Then we'll go for .csv file to PSA to master data attributes. Then we maintain the hierarchies. Then we go ahead with the DSO. We cover DSO.csv file hierarchies, and these are the primary projects that we are going to do on the in the BW 7.4 version, and we are going to go for application server file 2. When we do this, we are also going to use concept like we will be using something like uh, no, we have some calculation. We can do the calculation here. So in calculation is done, and here we are going to use something like constant. In each one of the projects, we'll have one new concept being introduced as well. While during this process, we'll also do that. Handling the currency. How do we handle the currency and all? Currency and quantity. Also, we'll be covering that. Application server file to say all the various techniques that we have here. So these projects happens to be on this BW 7.4. Then we are going to have something called Hana modeling. Hana modeling is mandatory for every SAP consultant, irrespective of which module you will be working on. Hana modeling, which happens to be HA100, SAP standard book called HA100. For that, this is the common one. So this HA100 is something which we have, for which in which we have a couple of concepts, and we're going to do somewhere around 10 to 15 projects on HA100, and we're going to do some 10 to 15 projects on BW 7.4, and then we are going to move on to the BW for HANA. We're going to go for mixed or hybrid projects as well. So then we'll be going ahead with this. So then we have how do we actually load it from application server file. So what is the application server file is what we'll discuss, and then we'll go file. And then we will have the LO cockpit. We have COPA. We have quick X report. X report will not work in this one. It will be BO report only. We'll quickly do one simple BO report wherein we'll create a kind of a universe and then we'll show the data there. These are the projects that we have, and the Yellow Cockpit, COPA, and generic data source. Now, what is this Yellow Cockpit, COPA, and generic data sources? We bring the data. Actually, right now we are loading the data from .csv file, right? But in Yellow Cockpit, COPA, and generic data source, what we are going to do is we are going to extract the data from our ERP system, means OLTP system. So we'll have this data in SAP ECC 6.0 system. From here, we are going to load this data or replicate this data into SAP BW 7.4. So we're going to move the data from ECC to BW. This is what we're going to do in the in our Elo cockpit COPA and all. So this becomes a data source. So normally in real time, we are not going to upload the data from .csv. In general, we will be having the data in some software, and from there we are going to move it to the BW system. So that some software is one of them is ECC. So we are going to replicate the data from ECC system. And how does the data come into ECC? Whenever there is a transaction happening in the business, that will be updated into ECC software. and from there we are loading into the BW. This is what we have.
Are you speaking anything?
Yeah. So yeah, no, no, I was not talking anything. So what we have is like we have to get this data from there. So like we'll have somewhere around 15 projects we are going to do in this BW 7.4 similar to that, and then we have BW on HANA and BW for HANA. And why is it so important to do projects on HANA modeling, and why are we why it's mandatory for us to learn HANA modeling is because that is the new standard now. Uh, HANA modeling, whatever we do, we are going to do it directly on the HANA database. Directly, we are going to work in HANA database. So if you see the three-tier architecture, basically in three-tier architecture, what will happen is all our data. So basically, initially we had one-tier architecture. Then they introduced something called two-tier architecture. And this is this is let's say we have a one-tier architecture, in which we're going to go ahead with say database. We're going to have database. Same thing, we'll have the application. Then we have the presentation, everything in the same one. It was like a standalone system. Then slowly they realized that if I have to modify a file and share it to others in the organization, 100 different other people, so we need to have a common server. So they introduced something called client server architecture. This was the first model. Then what they did is they did the client server model. So in the client server model, we have two systems actually. In this, we have two servers. One is the database, another is the presentation. Okay, in this, what happens here in the presentation, let's say if we have somewhere around 10 systems which are accessing this data, 10 systems. From 10 systems, we are accessing the data. Then all these 10 systems will hit the database. Let's say if the database is designed for 10 systems to hit it, it's fine. But suddenly, if the number of users grow to 100, immediately the database will not be able to catch up to that load. It might either become slow, or it might completely crash as well. So for that process, for that reason, what we have is we have to go ahead with. So we had to go for some other alternative. So to avoid the crack, avoid the load, unnecessary load on database, they introduced the three-tier architecture. Now, what will happen in three-tier architecture is what we'll see. This is a two-tier architecture. Now we have presentation and all the users are working from here. Let's say now let us assume that we have in the office, like 100 employees are working on the server. So this is the server here in town, single server onto which we are connecting for the presentation. So all the 100 are working on the presentation. Means your laptop, your personal laptop acts like a presentation server. We have a server. In middle of it, they have introduced one more layer, which was necessary to manage the load on the server. The server could not take unpredictable load. So what they did is they introduced something called application server. Database. There's the database server, and this is the application server, and we have the presentation server. The application server was basically introduced to manage the load on the database, and so in this, like, we have dispatcher and all this stuff. So what is the main thing that we have to focus on is that basically actually managing the managing the load here. So application server is actually managing the load. Now, in this way, what happened initially is they have always made sure that all the processing happens at the application server level. All the processing happens at the application server level, and database was kept for only accessing the data. Have kept it for minimum transactions and minimum load. So they try to avoid the load on that, and then we have went. Now what happened is with the introduction of HANA database, uh, the game completely changed now. Now HANA database happens to be extremely powerful, extremely sophisticated. So that's the reason they now want to move all the load to database. So all these days before the introduction of HANA database, they were focusing on processing or executing everything in the application layer. But after the introduction of HANA database, now they want to shift the entire load into HANA database. No matter whichever module we learn, these HANA basics are mandatory for every one of us, irrespective of which module we are into. So primarily, let me show you this one. These are all the innovations that we have in HANA, which we're going to discuss later. But there are a lot of things that are being removed now, and there is a lot of shift in the way we used to do the processing before the HANA database and after the HANA, which we need to focus upon. So we are not going to discuss all these things theoretically. Whichever are required, we are going to do that. But most of them we'll realize and we'll understand through exercises. We'll do some exercise and it'll give us the clarity. This is something which we'll discuss later because we are not yet started this on a. I mean, it will take some time. After a few sessions and few projects, we're going to discuss about all these things. So we just have this HANA database which happens to be extremely powerful, and that's the reason they have introduced all the processing to be executed at the database server layer. And how are they shifting it? What did they do to shift the processing to in a database server is what we are going to discuss in the coming sessions. Any doubt in this? Like you want any questions in this concept? Yes. Data architecture is a universal architecture. You can have it anywhere in any of the softwares. It's a very user friendly, and like this is something which is adapted by many organizations, many softwares. So now in this, like we have, so we can have this database tab. The logical tab is nothing but application tab, and then we have the presentation tab, and we have the now whatever end users will be working from the client, from the database, the presentation tab. We have the logical tab and we have the database tab. So these are the three tabs which we normally had. Even now we have it, but our entire load is now shifted to database tab instead of going for application tab. Let me show you quickly that one as well. Actually, I just need to download this H100, because that will be having all the basics. So here we have this calculation. So all the calculations are now moved to database layer than the application layer, because HANA SAP has already proved that this HANA database happens to be the extremely powerful one, the fastest one. That's the reason they have gone for this approach of calculation. Everything, all the calculations being happening in the database tier level. So even now we are not going to write any code in the BW, but whatever processing happens in the backend will be in at the database level. As much as possible, they have moved it to database. Let me quickly give you the transition from our old the software to latest one. Let me just quickly give that overview of it. I have a very interesting slide for that. Just a minute, I just downloading the book here. So BW, I'm just searching for this BW one. Yeah. So in this, we have very important concepts here, which will be the basic for our BW for HANA. So our BW on HANA comes under the OLAP process. Previously, we used to have OLAP and OLTP processes in a different softwares, but right now with the introduction of SAP HANA, everything is in a single software. So we don't have to actually do this Hello Cockpit, COPA. I mean, trying to get the data from other system to this system. So it was a very big process and it used to take a lot of time. And the way data gets loaded in OLTP and the way data gets loaded in OLTP completely different. OLTP and OLTP are completely different. So that's the reason they avoided mixing up them, mixing both of them, OLTP and OLTP. But here in the HANA approach, they have introduced both in one software. These all concepts we'll discuss after we do a couple of exercises because that will become easy for us to understand. I just wanted to have a quick overview of what are the concepts that we had discussed. Based on that, I just wanted to have a quick overview of it. And this is a cloud and on-premise and hybrid. So these are the deployments. Like, well, if a client is purchasing the software, they'll have three options. Like either they can go for cloud, on-premise, or hybrid. On cloud, in the sense like they can install the software completely on cloud platform. Like for example, you can go for Amazon cloud, and you can save whatever server you want, you can save it there, or SAP's own cloud is there, or SAP the client can maintain their own cloud as well. So cloud, in the sense, they can access it from anywhere and everywhere. So but all clients are not happy with that because it might have, if they go for cloud, they might have to compromise on the security of their data. So, for example, let's say we have Swiss Bank. So, what will happen if Swiss Bank account all details are being hacked by someone in cloud? So that creates a big issue throughout the world in all the countries. So that kind of confidential data needs to be maintained confidential itself. So for that, they don't prefer cloud. So in that way, if they don't prefer the cloud, they can also go for on-premise SAP implementation, for an implementation, or we can go for hybrid. Hybrid means a bit of it in the cloud and a bit of it in the on-premise. So we can do that. These are the different offerings that SAP gives on the software side.
But sir, currently everything is getting into cloud, right? So
Yeah, so SAP gives that option. The first option would be cloud, definitely the cloud. But now, then some clients will not be happy with that. They no, we really want to go for on-premise only. They'll be strictly doing it. If they say we don't want to go for cloud, we want on-premise, then option is there. But the first option which SAP always suggests them to do is like the cloud-based. And in cloud bases, there are a lot of advantages as well. In fact, if at all, if you are launching that software on SAP's cloud, then what will happen is the updations of software will be done automatically by SAP. SAP takes care of all the updations. So memory platform and all. So I mean, like SAP takes care of all the updates. Like latest the software updates will be done by SAP, not by the client. Just like in your phone, like sometimes you get the updates that you have to update, and only when you say yeah, okay, it'll update, right? Here, when it is cloud based, automatically SAP takes care of the updation. But if it's on premise, our team has to do it on our own. That's something which we
On-premise in the sense within the organization which is storing the data.
yes, on premise. The server will be installed physically in our system, our premises only, the client premises. So if let's say we have it's working for say Philips organization or Sony organization, electronic company Sony. So it will be actually the servers will be physically kept in some SAP in Sony office, but in cloud it's not like that. It's stored somewhere and you just accessing it. That's it. So in some scenarios, cloud becomes more secured for them. In some other scenarios, on-premise becomes secure.
The 26-page diagram, uh, if we go down, not this one, yeah, after this one, yeah. So this, what it says, this one, like SAP HANA 2011.
Yeah, HANA was basically launched in 2010 actually. Uh, from the at the end of 2010, so they have considered as 2011. So in 2011, they have launched the HANA database, and then they launched this business warehouse powered by SAP. That means BW on HANA they introduced in 2011. And then after that they have introduced OLTP and OLTP process. So they merged OLTP and OLTP process, and then they launched S4 HANA in 2015. S4 HANA is a pure business suite, and in the business suite they have merged this BW for HANA as well. So BW for HANA was introduced in 2016, and in 2016 they have introduced that BW for HANA.
So we can say like BW for HANA and S4 HANA is almost similar, or
No, 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 no. They are completely different. Niranjan, I've been telling that from the beginning. They're completely different. So you don't have any similarities there because BW on HANA happens to be a OLAP process, and S4 HANA happens to be OLTP process. Just like we have data warehousing is a concept. Okay, there's a difference between data warehousing and uh, our ECC, the ERP. ERP is also a concept just like data warehousing is a concept. So we had ECC 6.0, then we have S4 HANA. It means we had a simple logistics and all, but SAP S4 HANA. And we have a lot of deployments in S4 HANA. So this is something which we have here.
okay. So data warehouse is like, if we talk about data warehouse, then BW for HANA, and if it's ERP, then it's S for HANA.
So sometimes you can see
OLTP, yeah.
OLTP, OLAP together. Now they might call it as SAP S4 HANA suite, but ultimately you can, when they say S4 HANA suite, in some they might consider that BW for HANA is also included, but BW for HANA concept is different. So they are, because they are including that BW for HANA also in the suite. Maybe they consider in some cases only because they both have the same database. Our right now this one and this one both have the same database. What will happen? Both will have the same database. Okay, I'll show that in another one. But these are the things that we have here. So we have OLTP and OLAP. Since OLTP and OLAP are both clubbed together, that's the reason it can be sometimes in some cases it's considered, but we always have to have a clarity about the BW for HANA, whether the BW for HANA is implemented in it or not. So they might be combined and then we consider it as a part of the S4 HANA suite. But technically, BW for HANA is different. So let me give you this introduction. Like, for example, let's say,
So can we tell it as OLTP? It was for ECC and OLAP is BW.
exactly.
Now, after introduction of this HANA, S4 HANA is take care of OLTP, and this BW for HANA take care of OLAP.
Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Now they call it as a single software because they are lying on same database. But the functionality, since they are on the single database, HANA database. So whatever you are updating in from the business suite is in the same database, and whatever you are accessing from the BW for HANA is also same database. So what will happen is the moment the business is happening, you can take the decisions instantly. What do I mean by the instantly is, for example, if somebody is swiping a card in the supermarket, immediately they get a notification. The counter person will be getting a notification. The person who is sitting at the counter, that this particular person last in the last visit, he took a couple of say something like soaps, and these soaps were not taken this time. So you can just immediately that person will be reminded, like, sir, the last time you took the soaps, so would you like to take them to this time? Or yeah, last time you liked the cakes, so would you like to take it this time? So the moment, instantly, you can gather the information and also take the decision on it. So it's very fast. So previously it was not like that. To take the decision on the software, it used to take 1 day, sometimes 1 week also. But because we have to see the statistics in the BW system, today it's not like that. Next moment, if the business is happening right now, next moment the data can be it can be analyzed. Data can be analyzed. So now here we just have this kind, and now I want to add something. Yeah, I'll just normally tell you one funny example for this. Like, there was a offer which was released in US. I'm just giving you as an example. An Apple iPhone offer in all Apple iPhone stores on one particular day, if they give either a check or a card, or even they can do the transfer, online transfer, they can buy that iPhone for half of the price, only for that day. So people start rushing, and it become very popular. And throughout the US, Apple has raised a lot of money instantly for some reason. But they wanted the money, liquid cash, so they immediately generated that. They were happy. But now, if the same was introduced in India, and when it was introduced in India, the how actually the purchases are happening and all, the statistics and analysis were done live basis, and immediately after 1 hour they get to know that everybody is rushing to the you know to the Apple store, and they are throwing away the checkbooks, with as if they are giving autographs. They are writing all the blank checks and giving it to them, and then say that, give me some 10 Apple iPhones. Why? Because they don't actually respect the check value. They just say, okay, fine, you go and whatever you want to do with the check, you can do. Immediately after 1 hour, if they realize that this is something which should not be done in India, they can restrict immediately. They can modify in the back end that check payment is not allowed. So immediately, when they make the changes, that the organization can save lot of loss. So in this way, if the analysis is done at the very moment, then stop doing a lot of loss to the company. Losses can be stopped. If you try to analyze it after 1 day or 1 week, the things would have been very at a different level. Like, because if let's say somewhere around 10,000 Apple iPhones have been taken on that check, so that check will never be encashed. So it will be a huge loss to the company. Since they realized it within the 1 hour of the offer, they changed it and they saved the money. So this is one good example of taking a real time decision. It saves a lot of time, money, and a lot of resources.